Every night, at exactly 1:13 a.m., the radio came alive. Not with static, not with interference, not with random voices crossing the signal. It carried emergency calls from a town that didn't exist. And somehow, someone always answered. The strangest part? The voices never changed, not once. Night after night, they repeated the same desperate pleas for help, as if time itself had become trapped inside that radio. It happened during the summer of 2021, deep in the Cascade Mountains, where forests stretched for miles and silence felt almost unnatural. 28-year-old Noah Briggs had accepted a seasonal job as a fire lookout, a job most people would describe as peaceful, simple, even boring. His responsibilities were straightforward: watch the forest, look for smoke, report wildfires, stay inside the tower. The lookout tower stood alone on a rocky mountain peak, overlooking thousands of acres of wilderness. The nearest town was nearly 50 miles away. There was no cell service, no internet, no passing traffic. Only endless forests, towering pine trees, and complete isolation. Once each week, a supply truck climbed the narrow mountain road, bringing food, water, fuel, and anything else Noah might need. If bad weather blocked the road, he was completely on his own. Inside the tower, there wasn't much to look at. A small bed, a wooden desk, a pair of binoculars, several wildfire maps, an old weather station, and resting quietly in one corner, an aging emergency radio. It looked older than everything else in the building. Its faded paint had begun to peel. Its speaker was scratched. Its buttons were worn smooth from decades of use. On Noah's first evening, an experienced forest ranger finished showing him around. He explained the equipment, reviewed emergency procedures, pointed toward nearby observation points. Everything seemed completely routine. Then, just before leaving, the ranger stopped beside the radio. For a moment, he simply stared at it, as if remembering something he wished he'd forgotten. Finally, he looked at Noah. His expression had changed. The friendly smile was gone. "If that radio speaks," he said quietly, "after 1 a.m, don't answer." Noah blinked, then laughed. He assumed it was another one of those old mountain stories, something veteran rangers told every new lookout, a harmless joke meant to make lonely nights feel more interesting. The ranger didn't laugh back. Instead, he picked up his backpack, walked toward the door, and paused one last time. Without turning around, he repeated the warning. "No matter what you hear, don't answer." The door closed. His truck disappeared down the mountain road, and before long, the tower stood completely alone, surrounded by nothing except darkness and endless forest. For the next 3 nights, nothing happened. The skies remained clear. The mountains were silent. The radio never made a sound. Noah spent his evenings reading, making coffee, and watching the stars appear over the trees. Little by little, he forgot about the ranger's strange warning. Then came the 4th night. The tower was silent. Not even the wind moved through the trees. Noah glanced at the old clock hanging on the wall. 1:12 a.m. 1 minute later, the second hand clicked into place. 1:13. The radio suddenly crackled. A sharp metallic click echoed through the room. Then, a calm voice spoke. "Dispatch, this is Cedar Ridge. We've got smoke moving toward the school. We need engines immediately." Noah sat frozen. His eyes slowly shifted toward the radio. The signal was crystal clear. No static, no distortion. Just a frightened voice, speaking as though the emergency was happening, right now. Confused, Noah reached for the regional wildfire map. His finger traced every nearby town, every logging road, every ranger station. But there was only one problem. There was no Cedar Ridge. Noah checked the map again, slowly, carefully, every road, every valley, every nearby settlement. Nothing. There wasn't a single place called Cedar Ridge. Before he could think, the voice returned. "Dispatch. The fire has crossed Main Street. We're losing the north side of town. Please, we need help now." A second voice answered almost immediately, calm, professional, completely unfazed. "Cedar Ridge. Units are responding. Help is on the way." The transmission ended. The tower fell silent once again, as if nothing had happened. The next morning, Noah contacted the district office. He asked every ranger the same question. "Where is Cedar Ridge?" Most of them simply shrugged. Some had never heard the name. Others searched old regional maps. Nothing. No roads, no town, no record. That night, at exactly 1:13 a.m., the radio came alive again. "Dispatch. The fire's reached the church. We're evacuating everyone we can. We can't hold it much longer." Again, the dispatcher answered. Exactly the same calm voice, exactly the same words. "Units are responding. Help is on the way." Night after night, the story continued. One transmission after another, like chapters from the same disaster. Homes were burning, roads had collapsed, families were trapped, children were missing, smoke filled every street. Every caller sounded terrified, every message felt real, every scream felt impossible to ignore. But something never changed. No emergency crews ever arrived. No helicopters, no engines, no rescue teams. Only the same voices, repeating the same nightmare, every night, at exactly 1:13 a.m. Noah couldn't ignore it anymore. He connected a digital recorder and captured every transmission for an entire week. Every call, every reply, every desperate voice. When the supply truck finally arrived, he handed the recordings to his supervisor, without saying a word. The supervisor listened quietly. His face remained expressionless until the final transmission ended. Then, he stood up, walked to an old storage cabinet, and unlocked it with a small brass key. Inside sat a dusty cardboard box, filled with faded newspapers, old photographs, and wildfire reports. He carefully unfolded one yellowed newspaper, placed it on the table, and slid it toward Noah. The headline read, "Cedar Ridge destroyed by massive wildfire. Date, August 14th, 1956. Noah's heartbeat quickened. He read every line. The article described an isolated mountain town, a fast-moving wildfire, entire neighborhoods consumed within hours. Dozens of people never escaped. Then his eyes stopped on the final paragraph. The last emergency radio transmission was received at exactly 1:13 a.m. Noah looked back at the recorder, then at the newspaper, then back again. The voices were identical. The dispatcher was identical. Even the order of the transmissions was exactly the same. Someone or something had been repeating the final moments of Cedar Ridge every single night for more than 60 years. Noah resigned before the fire season ended. He packed his equipment, left the mountain, and never returned. According to the Forest Service, another lookout accepted the job the following summer. During orientation, he noticed the old emergency radio. Curious, he asked why they still kept it. The ranger smiled, a slow, uneasy smile, then quietly said, "It still works, but whatever you do, don't answer after 1:13 a.m. So let me ask you, if you heard desperate voices begging for help and you knew they had been dead for decades, would you answer? Or would you let history repeat itself one more night? Because sometimes the scariest ghost stories aren't about haunted houses or shadow figures. Sometimes they're nothing more than a voice still waiting for someone to answer. Subscribe for more disturbing mysteries where forgotten evidence refuses to stay buried and reality becomes impossible.